Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast. Welcome back to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. It is Monday, January 8th. This is episode 66. I'm Matt Roy, back in the saddle. Thanks for Zach Hedrick for filling in last Thursday. Chuck McIntyre, Don Harris here. Hopefully you guys didn't miss me too much.
Just a little bit. We did.
Well,
we just saw you on Saturday. How the heck could we miss you?
I mean, you know, absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Zach did a great job, though.
Zach did do a great job. I listened to the whole thing. It was riveting, as always. It was Thursday, and so that was right before the Spurs game when then Wemby decided to block Giannis into the next era. So that was nice. It was a nice little intro to that. As always, we have a lot going on, especially with Wild Card Weekend set. So we will get into pretty much all the matchups, but we'll hit mainly on the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Texans games pretty much as they all set up for their Super Wild Card Weekend at least. But first, as always, we will get to the number game. I wrote down a lot of names today. Usually I only write down 3 or 4, but so many good offensive linemen. I'll just run through a few of them.
Episode number 66.
Episode 66. So there's number 66, Alan Faneca. He just recently went into the Hall of Fame. Mainly Pittsburgh for him. He's an offensive guard. Larry Little, Miami Hall of Famer. I put this one in for Bob, our Cyber Bob, who we refer to all the time. Gene Hickerson. He's a
Never heard of him.
Cleveland Brown. 58-73 is when he played.
Okay.
He's an offensive guard. Also a Hall of Famer. Bulldog Turner.
Never heard of him.
Put him down as well. He is from Texas, actually. From Plains, Texas, which is basically New Mexico, but we'll call it Texas. He played for the Bears. I think that was like in the 40s. So that was long time ago. And then Billy Shaw I put down as well. Offensive guard, drafted by the Cowboys in 61 in the NFL. He was drafted in the NFL.
I appreciate what you're
AFL.
doing. You're trying to get the old guys thinking, me and Chuck think, okay, we know these guys, right? Because we're old.
Yeah. I mean,
but we don't.
I figured
Surely
we lived in the era of these guys.
I looked for basketball players for you, but there wasn't any.
So Ray Nitschke, yes.
Yeah, I put Ray Nitschke down. He's last.
Chuck
on
would
the
know
list.
that one too. And Larry Little, yes, from Miami. But there's only one number 66.
Who?
Mario Lemieux.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's a good one.
It's like 99 with Gretzky. There's only 199.
I never go and look at hockey sometimes.
I never think about hockey, but when I heard 66, I said, isn't there one of the greatest hockey players was 66? There were 66, 99, and there were 77.
Who was 77?
I don't know, but I know that's a big.
Either.
I'm not a hockey fan, but I know that there was a great player that was 77. I think also Pittsburgh or let's ask Siri. Siri, who's the greatest hockey player to wear number 77?
Cat got your tongue, Siri?
This is riveting
Ray
right now.
Bork. That's not who I'm thinking of.
York. Anyway,
That's not who I'm
and then I
thinking
also put down Yasiel Puig for you.
That was very nice. Nice addition.
I mean, I just got to put some baseball on there. I try and get basketball in there for Don and baseball in there for Chuck, since those are their two true loves. So I try and put those in there.
Yeah, 66, I don't know in basketball, unless,
There's no basketball player. Andrew Bogut might have wore it for a season, I think, when I was looking through things. But besides that, not a lot of good ones. You don't really get a good basketball player for a while. There's not a lot of high number basketball players.
Well, we're nearly 3 minutes into this podcast, and it's spinning wildly off the rails. We're talking about 66s in hockey.
At least we're still talking about sports. We sometimes divert into other things entirely.
We devolve.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
We do that a lot. It's all right. That's all right. Let's get to the Cowboys. So the Cowboys officially won the NFC East. Didn't look good at the beginning against the Commanders, but they would have won even if they lost yesterday because the Eagles are so damn bad at football now. But let's just talk about the Cowboys for right now. I wasn't totally impressed with how they played yesterday. I think we still saw that they have some issues, but they got the win by 28 on the road against a division opponent, so you can't really be too mad at it.
I don't know really how to summarize yesterday's game because I don't know. I mean, they had to take care of business, and I think they knew they would. There was a tip ball interception early that hurt them, and the game was a little more competitive than we thought it was going to be because of a couple things. But once they settled down, I like the fact that they established Pollard. I like the fact that they tried CD in every situation just to see if this is going to work because he's been so dominant. It's like, okay, Washington knows it's coming his way. Let's just go to him at all times to see if he's unstoppable as we think he is, and he is. The only question mark, and this is weird, is that the kicker who was perfect missed two.
Right.
Well,
that was
one of them doesn't count. One of them doesn't count as a miss. Like, it shouldn't count as a miss.
Why not?
Because it was blocked. That's not his fault.
Could be.
If
he didn't get it up high enough.
He didn't get it up high enough. It hit the guy in the sternum, basically, because he came unabated through the line.
Okay.
It just brought up, I think what Don's saying is this brought up some really nasty feelings about last year. It's like, are you kidding?
With
Could this
Brett
happen?
Maher, yeah.
Could this happen twice in 2 years?
I mean, because
but then he made his last one.
It's like a golf swing,
I'm pretty sure that's the only reason that they kicked that last one too, is just to be like, all right, go make one. We need to end the season on a make. Here
and that wasn't a bunny either. It was significantly, it was long. So
I feel real good about them going into the playoffs in round one. I think they're riding high. They're healthy. They're confident. The running game might be a little suspect, but I think, Pollard went over 1,000 yards, and that's not what it used to be. But still, I think they gave him some confidence with the way they ran the ball. Offensive line was banged up, and they still were pretty successful. I'm not sure how, is everybody going to be healthy for
I don't know, but
Tyler
I think
Smith
they have to
gonna
like
get
what they saw yesterday, right? Given what you just said. I mean, when you're down Zach Martin and Tyron Smith, and then to go out and have a performance like that, again, it's a division game. You're on the road. There were a lot of things to like. I, too, watching the first part of that game, it's like, okay, you can't have the tip ball interception. You can't have a big special teams mistake. These are the kinds of things that will get you beat in the postseason. But, yeah, once they settled in a little bit, then the game completely flipped, and they were dominant after the interception.
Yeah, I think they scored on touchdowns on 4 of their next 5 drives after the interception. Actually, the 4 next drives after the interception. Then it was the missed field goal that he actually missed, and then it was the field goal that he made. I don't think they punted yesterday. The offense looked pretty good, which I was a little bit – everyone looks good against Washington, but the Cowboys have just been horrible on the road when it comes to their offense and offensive production. I don't think they had broken 30 points yet on the road this season. I could be misremembering there. They're just always better at home, which is why yesterday was so important to them, is to make sure that they get at least 2 home games.
Agree, and I think it's interesting too, like, McCarthy's talked about, you have to have some packages that are meant specifically for the playoffs, and I think we started to see a little of that yesterday. You saw more of Pollard. They want to establish that going into the postseason. You got to be able to run the football in the postseason. And then even on the Brandon Cooks touchdown, that was a flashback play to a touchdown that they scored in the Arlington Super Bowl for McCarthy when he won his Super Bowl to Greg Jennings. So I thought it was interesting. We're seeing some old and some new, some stuff that he's brought to the table, some plays that they've run before or that McCarthy's run before that maybe we'll see, maybe a lot more slants in the postseason, stuff that worked for him in the past. I don't know. It was just kind of cool flashback yesterday, especially on the Cooks touchdown for me.
And we've praised him before, but tip of the cap to Mike McCarthy for, he knew his job was on the line last offseason. He fired Kellen, even though Kellen's offense was good. And we all said, oh, he's going to have to be really good to beat Kellen's offense. And he has. I don't know if the numbers are as good as they were a year ago, but Dak is in a comfort groove with McCarthy in his ear and the rhythm of the plays that are called that Dak is comfortable with, that I think it was all my chips are in on my job, and if we don't do it, I'm getting fired. So forget Kellen, I'm calling the plays. And it worked. So far, it's worked.
I would argue that his job might still be on the line a little. Just because, let's say they come out and they lose to Green Bay. I don't think they will, but I'm just throwing that scenario out there. I would say that his job isn't 100%
Guys
saved.
won 12 games 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
And they've got two home games in the playoffs. And again, if the Packers beat them, yes, I could see something changing. But I found it interesting that Jerry Jones was asked yesterday, could just be Jerry. Jerry just, hey, is Mike McCarthy your coach next year? And he said, let's see how things go game to game. That's so Jerry.
He just wants all the eyeballs, man.
No, he wants the pressure.
Give him the eyeballs, give him the pressure. He wants it
the
all.
pressure on his guys.
Which is so ridiculous because they don't do that well under pressure.
I don't know. I mean, they've won some pressure ball games here. You know, yesterday was a pressure ball game, and going on the road, you're going into a town, a team, everybody hates you. I'm sure there were a fair amount of Cowboy fans there, but they handled business. They won a road game yesterday so that they don't have to win a road game immediately to start the postseason. So, you know, they handled business and they handled it quite well yesterday. So I think they handled the pressure well yesterday.
Let's go down this rabbit hole just for fun, okay?
Okay. See, this is why we devolve into things.
Just
That's
for
good.
fun.
All right,
Just like spitballing.
all right. I love it.
You know, this is a sports,
I love it. I love it.
sports podcast, and guys are going to be listening to this. Are going to love this topic.
I love it.
If the Cowboys were to lose at home to the Packers, and Bill Belichick is available, could Jerry and Bill Belichick coexist?
No.
That's a good question. Could they coexist? I think that Jerry would have to know going in that there were going to be different parameters if a guy like Belichick came in.
Because Belichick's not going to. Belichick's going to want to, as Parcells used to say, shop for the groceries.
Yeah. Well, that's asking another Jimmy Johnson situation to happen.
Parcells and Jerry got along for a
They
good long
did.
time.
And Parcells has had nothing but praise for Jerry and said, you know, the learning curve for Jerry was a lot shorter than for other GMs and other owners. And yeah, he's been very complimentary to his time in Dallas. I think Parcells just got tired of losing these close playoff games because they eat at you.
Well, to even go further down that rabbit hole, let's say they lose to the Packers and Mike McCarthy gets fired. Who would you want to replace him? Who would, like, if you could pick anybody in the entire coaching landscape that does not currently have a job, and I'll put Bill Belichick on the list just because there's so much speculation around it.
I don't know. I mean, because it's a different dynamic with the Cowboys. Like, just even thinking about Belichick, like, how would he handle the media? And McCarthy has done a phenomenal job. He's much more open, much more congenial with the Dallas press.
Oh, yeah.
Than he ever was in Green Bay. In terms of sharing, he's been a good teacher in terms of, I think, filling in the media of what they're trying to do without giving away the X's and O's.
Well, you see him poking fun at Clarence all the time, too. Like, he's just really friendly with the media overall.
I think if the Packers beat the Cowboys, if I was a Cowboys fan, and I'm a journalist, I try to be objective. My son's name is Landry. I would want McCarthy to not get fired, even if he lost to the Packers.
I think there's too much.
I think he's done a good job.
Invested at this point.
Especially with Dak. Dak's belief in him. And Dak, you're going to sign Dak to all this extension. You want Dak to be happy, right? So,
well, you know what I could see?
That would be Dak's.
You know what I could see happening is if they lose to the Packers or if their defense gets undressed, like we've seen happen in the fourth quarter of a couple of close ball games in the last month or so, I could see Dan Quinn being gone.
I think he's gone anyway.
I think this is his last year there, and they're going to have to find another defensive coordinator because either he gets a head coaching job or their defense, like I said, gets undressed in one of these games in the playoffs, whether it's against the Niners, the Eagles, the Bucks, whoever the heck it might be, and he gets fired because of lack of performance.
He's going to get a head coaching job.
There's a good chance. I mean, if there's going to be 10 of them out on the street, possibly.
I mean, yeah, there's at least, 5 right? There's 5 right now, I think. Let's get to Cowboys matchups, or let's get to the Super Wildcard Weekend matchups. Packers and Cowboys first and foremost. To set the stage, the line is 7.5. It opened at 7 in favor of the Cowboys. The over/under is 50.5. The Packers have beaten the Cowboys in their last 4 matchups, including last year in Green Bay, and then the 3 previous ones in 1917 and the playoffs in 17. All of those were in Dallas, and the Packers won all 3 of them. So just to set the stage a little bit, the last 4 matchups have all gone Green Bay's way.
They all had Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, that's
every one of them.
So
Jordan Love has some Aaron Rodgers.
Forget all that. Cowboys win and cover in my mind.
Really?
I don't see it being close. Yeah, I think the Cowboys win by 2 touchdowns.
It's a playoff game, and I think the Packers are probably young and dumb enough to at least be competitive. I think the Packers are going to wear out 33. I think we saw a little of that yesterday.
Yeah.
He's going to be their fail-safe. I mean, Aaron Jones is a fantastic player. He's been infinitely banged up again this year, but he looks like he's starting to click and get healthy right at the right time. They got this guy, Bo Melton, out of nowhere. He was a guy that was drafted in the 7th round by Seattle. They cut him. Green Bay immediately picked him up. He's been on and off the practice squad. The last couple of weeks, this guy's really chipped in with not only catches, but significant yardage. They've got a bunch of receivers. I don't even know who they are, half of them, but it seems like every week one of them steps up. I think the thing that's going to kill the Packers in this ball game is that the one thing that Coach LaFleur has proven to me over time is that he plays not to lose. And you can't play like that in a game like this. You got to let it all air out. And even if you're super aggressive and it turns into mistakes, I think that's how you're going to have to play. You can't manage a game like they did yesterday with the Bears. You're just, you're playing from ahead and you're managing clock and you're doing all these things. That's not going to play on the road in a playoff game. You've got to attack. And, yeah, you got to keep an eye on the clock, but preferably in the fourth quarter. That's when you start really trying to, maybe whittle things down or try to limit the Cowboy possessions. That's the one thing that concerns me going in is that will the Packers play not to lose?
Yeah, I'm going to save prediction for Thursday, but I think that this game itself is going to come down to health. Stephon Gilmore, how bad's the shoulder going to be? Dislocated it, popped it back in, said he's fine. How fine is he? Christian Watson, how fine is he? On the Packers side, how banged up is Romeo Doubs? How banged up is Jalen Reed? How banged up are all of their weapons? Is A.J. Dillon going to be able to come in and be the sledgehammer? How healthy is their offensive line? Is Jair Alexander going to spout off like he usually does?
I hope so. A little sauce for the goose.
Right. How healthy is the Cowboys' offensive line? Is Zach Martin going to get over the illness? I think he'll be fine. But Tyler Smith, how is he going to hold up? Is Tyron Smith going to get injured at some point this week, like we always seems to happen in the playoffs?
Well, Tyler's the one I'm worried about with the plantar fascia.
Yeah, but apparently a full tear is better than a half a tear. So
we didn't play.
Yeah, but I think that was more precautionary than anything.
Okay.
I think they looked at it as like we can beat Washington without Tyler.
Yeah.
Let's give him a week off. But I think that's where it all comes down to is health. And that's where, frankly, a lot of the games come down to at this time in the year is how healthy are you, which team's healthier, and which team can kind of have that next man up mentality and kind of step in and do that. But I think it goes without saying, this is the Cowboys' best chance to win a Super Bowl in the last 20 years. They have the path. If someone can knock off the 49ers, then they're the prohibitive favorite in the NFC.
Well, they've had their chances before. I don't know if this is their best chance in the last 20 years. The 07 team was loaded. A few years ago, they had the number 1 seed.
Well, didn't they they didn't get past the wild card round in that?
No, I know.
Didn't they?
But
they lost to the Giants, right?
Well, and then they lost to the Packers a couple times too during that stretch. So, they put themselves in the best conceivable position. And I'm with you in terms of do we really think that the 49ers right now are this haughty 1 seed that can't be beaten? Not at this point. What happens if they got to play the Rams? Division opponent, common opponent. And then, who knows? Things could break their way. Wouldn't you rather play the Rams at home than the 49ers on the road if you get to the NFC Championship situation?
Yeah, well,
So, yes, in terms of how this thing could break out, but again, it's the NFL. You just don't know what's going to happen week to week.
Looking at it like that, too, we'll touch on it here in a second, the Rams are playing the Lions. There's no doubt in my mind the Rams can win that game in Detroit. So if that happens, then that's what would go down is the Rams then traveling to Santa Clara to play the 49ers. They can win that game too, to your point. So I could see the Cowboys having all 3 games at home if they continue to win.
Yeah, it's possible.
And
I can see the Rams losing to Detroit at home. And I can see this is the thing that we haven't talked about. We're assuming that Dak Prescott plays like Dak Prescott has played this year, most of the year, in the playoffs, where he traditionally takes the gas, throws 2 pick sixes, melts down, kind of like in Washington yesterday, where the first play, where he gets the tip pass and things go south. Only playoff wins matter in Cowboys quarterback history when you talk about Staubach and Aikman and the greats. Dak, to this point, has not been that guy. So, do we believe that he is this guy? And do we believe he can be? Yes, because he's had such a great year. And he's really, really improved on all facets. Is it possible that he completely shrivels Yes. I don't expect it, but I mean, he's got to do it before we.
Yeah, I
give
just
it to
don't
him.
see if they lose this game. I don't think it's going to be because of him. I mean, I
He-
just
it
think
doesn't-
it's,
No, I
Here
don't
to
think
me,
so,
yeah.
especially not at home. If they lose this game, it's going to be because of their defense, in my opinion. But like I said, this is their best chance to win the Super Bowl, or at least get to a Super Bowl. Having 2 games at home, this is their best chance to at least get to a championship game, which they also haven't done in 28 years or however many it is. Their path is there, and they are going to have to kind of rid some of the demons to get there. And if there's a team that can do it, it's this one. So
This podcast can be 2 hours long if you don't speed this up.
what's wrong with 2 hours? Everyone wants to listen to us talk for 2 hours. All right, Eagles.
Don's acting as though he's not sitting here extending the broadcast.
Right.
I'm just looking at the rest of the rundown going,
It was 5 minutes.
I got to do a 5 and 6 o'clock show.
We had 6 minutes of.
My bad. Yeah.
So anyway, Eagles Bucks. The Eagles suck. So
Yeah.
they're gonna lose on Monday.
There's a good chance of that, especially with
Depending on-
Baker's played pretty well.
Depending on how banged up Baker
What's
is.
that line?
Yeah.
It's 2.5 for the Eagles. Eagles are favored by 2.5 on the road in Tampa
Yeah,
Bay.
hurts his finger.
He also gets another day of rest. I don't know how.
AJ Brown.
I don't know what that.
They lost
formula
a
was.
safety. I mean, they are banged up too, on top of playing bad. So yeah, I think I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Tampa won that football game.
I mean, I just don't say the Eagles. I don't know what happened to them. I really don't. But there's all these stories about what's coming out of the locker room, and AJ Brown being disruptive, and everything that's going on inside of the Cowboys or the Eagles locker room. Excuse me. With the amount of leadership that they have from Kelsey and from Lane Johnson and from Jalen Hurts and all the guys on that team, I don't understand how this is happening.
What a roller coaster ride.
But oh my God, you go from 10-1 and then you lose one. You go 1-5 in your last 6 games. Just like you said, anything can happen. And holy crap, did anything happen?
Well, it's that harken back to the Rams, right? I went to that Cowboy game. It's like if you'd have told me that would probably be the most scariest team going into the postseason because of how they've turned their season around. I mean, Dallas beat the snot out of them that day, and they've been a completely different animal. So, yeah, it is amazing how these teams, some of them have really done a nice job flipping the script, and then, conversely, how the Eagles have done it just the other way and 180 degrees the other direction.
Yeah, so we'll save predictions. I haven't made my final call on Philly and Tampa yet, and we'll also get another chance to talk about that on not only Thursday but Monday. Actually, we won't have a podcast on Monday. Happy Martin Luther King Day to everybody. So we will talk about that more on Thursday.
Jalen Hurts could not have more ups and downs if his name was Otis.
Okay, so for one other minute, I have something else to devolve into. Somebody put this on Twitter the other day that Jalen Hurts is Jeremy Lin of the National Football League. Linsanity.
Wow. No.
I don't
No.
know. I don't know though. He's been good. He was
Linsanity
good for
was
1 year.
Linsanity was good for 1 week
I don't know.
in 1 year.
But I saw that and I was like, it's not the worst comparison I've ever seen. Jalen Hurts was really good for a year and maybe like a couple of games the year before. He's been iffy all year this
I
year.
don't know.
That whole
pretty
team's
good.
been iffy. Their defense has been bad. I mean, that's a train
Went to a
wreck right
Super
now.
Bowl.
He did go to a Super Bowl. I'll give him that. But he should have won that Super Bowl too. Anyway, so let's get to Rams-Lions. That is the Sunday night game. And on another that same subject.
What's the line?
I'll tell you that in 1 second.
On News 4.
Yep. I was just about to say I'm really surprised, and I was telling Chuck before we started, I'm really surprised they didn't put the Cowboys and Packers in that time slot.
I'm 100% with you.
shocked
I
that
would
they
have
didn't
laid
put the
cash
Cowboys
that
there.
that was going down on Sunday night.
Absolutely, and that would have been the best Christmas gift you could have gotten there, Todd. So
Yeah, you got 2. Yeah. But you
well-
also have the Cowboys. I mean, nobody goes to the TV like they do for the Cowboys games. But you have the LA market and you have the Stafford storyline.
yeah, so the line is
And you have another top 5-10 market in Detroit, whereas Green Bay, not so much. But even though their brand is
still
strong.
their brand is huge.
Yeah.
The line is Detroit -3.5, over under 51.5. The line started at 3, open, and then it quickly went up to 3.5. So people started coming in on Detroit pretty heavy, apparently. So thoughts on the matchup. First of all, the storyline of Stafford going back and then Jared Goff playing his former team is so interesting.
So interesting.
Like, that's one of the most riveting storylines you can have, besides like the Packers, obviously, with Mike McCarthy playing against his old team. But this is just so crazy that Jared Goff gets cast aside for Matt Stafford. They go win a Super Bowl. The Lions go, 2-14, 3-14, something like that in his first year. And now they're this powerhouse with this rough and tumble head coach that just goes for it whenever the hell he wants to and doesn't take no crap from nobody. And now here they are, the best or third best team in the NFC, could have been the second best team in the NFC record-wise. And it's so interesting.
I know the Rams are capable of winning this game, and I know you guys like the Rams. I'm all in on Detroit for some reason. I like the Lions kind of like I like the Texans. I just am a culture guy, and I love Dan Campbell. I love the toughness of their run game. You know, you got to win in the playoffs. You got to run the football, and I don't know, does anybody run the football better than Detroit?
Kyron Williams for the Rams is one of the best running backs in the NFL this year.
But statistically, all year long. I mean, that's who they are.
Yeah, I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is one of those change of pace guys, and they really remind me of
Montgomery.
Yeah, those two really remind me of Zeke and Pollard from last year. Like, you have David Montgomery who's going to get 15 carries a game and just hammer it down your freaking face.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is CD-ish.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. USC guy. I love both of them.
I like Josh Reynolds. That's about the only thing I like about the Lions.
San Antonio kid.
That's right.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah, they're good. I don't know. The Rams would be the last team I want to face right now.
Yeah,
to be
I
quite
agree.
honest, going into the playoffs.
I agree. Puka Nacua is the best rookie receiver of all time, according to all the stats. But I mean, he had 17 games to get him, so you can take that for what it is. Cooper Kupp, as long as he's healthy, the connection with Stafford is ridiculous. Kyron Williams is a phenomenal player, and the fact, and I really, when you look at that matchup, I think it goes right down to the head coaches, and I believe more in Sean McVay than I do in Dan Campbell, despite knowing that Dan Campbell will put all of his chips on the table and, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, at least Sean McVay's got some skins on the wall in terms of postseason, right?
Yeah,
I mean, this will be Dan Campbell's first crack at it as a head coach.
I mean, that's the one like upset that I could really, really see happening. Besides the Bucks, I could really see the Lions winning that, or the Rams winning that game. But we'll see. We'll talk about it a little bit more on Thursday. Let's go to Texans-Browns. So the first game on Saturday is the Texans and the Browns. This is the Texans' return to glory after the Jags got just housed by the Titans yesterday. Texans win their first division for 5 years, I believe, since 2019. They are a force to be reckoned with, but I don't know how. It's I think it was Browns -1.5.
No, I think it's a little more.
No, it's more than that now. When it opened up, it was Browns -1.5. Now it's Houston +3, so Browns -3 on the road.
Man, I'm taking the Texans.
I think the Texans +3 is a great bet.
I just don't know how the Browns have done what they've done with all the quarterbacking problems that they've had. And
Joe Flacco's elite.
Joe Flacco's been on fire. I mean, literally on fire. What a phenomenal story. And, yeah, I mean, the way that they've played with him being their quarterback, you could see them going into Houston and winning a football game. But I don't know. There's just something about playing at home. Houston, again, just young and dumb enough to go and win a playoff game.
And I think that's the difference both in Detroit and in Houston are these starved fan bases who, I mean, I think those atmospheres are just going to be
They're going to be phenomenal.
unbelievable. I can see Houston being like it was with Earl Campbell, Love You Blue on Monday Night Football with Howard Cosell and all those white flags.
Plus, you have the Browns fans who always travel really well. And that's another starving franchise for a title, but two, just to be in the playoffs is one of the things that they don't do very often or very well. So
Good for them.
Yeah, good for them. Good for the Texans. I would lean Texans in that game, but the Browns defense is different on the road than it is at home, kind of just like the Cowboys are. So I don't know.
I'm all in on D'Amico and CJ.
I love
find a way.
I love both of them. Let's go Pittsburgh at the Bills. I believe that's the Saturday afternoon game. Or sorry, Sunday afternoon game. No, Sunday noon game for us. Yeah, that's the first game on Sunday. Bills are going to win. They're going to cover. They're -9.5 point favorites right now. If TJ Watt doesn't play in that game, I don't see any way that the Steelers compete. So, anyone else want to say anything on that one?
No, I'm out on the Bills and the Dolphins. I'm tired of trying to see greatness in these two teams, and then week to week, it just depends who shows up. I mean, I'll put the Bills and the Dolphins in the same category. I can't figure them out. It looks like they have too much to have this many question marks surrounding them week to week. Just let me know when it's over with the Bills and the Dolphins.
I thought that was just such a fun game last night, though, with the Bills and the Dolphins.
I was like, these offenses are too good to be this meh.
And lastly is the Saturday evening game, Dolphins at Chiefs. Tyreek Hill's first game back to Kansas City. The early weather report is single-digit temperatures for the team from Miami.
KC, I got the Chiefs at
give me
home.
KC by 10.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they've looked pretty pedestrian here the last 6 weeks or so.
I think it depends on health for the Dolphins. If you're down Raheem Mostert, if you're down, plus last night's game was a mash unit of injuries. Like someone went down on every other freaking play. So if you're out Xavier Howard, if you're out Raheem Mostert, if you're out Jalen Waddle,
I'll say this: if Taylor Swift is at the game, Chiefs by 10, guaranteed.
I was gonna say if Taylor Swift's at the game,
She doesn't
Dolphins
show up
by
unless
10.
they win. Yeah, no, she's not showing up to no loser game.
All right, so we'll get up to full actual predictions on Thursday, but that's just a brief preview of all the games. Let's get to real quick. There's one game tonight. Starts in about 5 hours. Washington, Michigan, in Houston at NRG. Sadly,
What's the
Texas
line?
is not there. 5. The line is 5 for Michigan. The over/under is 56.
I like Michigan, but I could see Washington putting up, 40 points what Michigan can't match. But I like Michigan's defense. I think they hold them down. I think it's close, but I think Michigan wins.
I'm going to go with Washington. Shock the world.
Final score?
I'm going to go with 31-24 Michigan.
34-21.
34-21 Washington.
Yeah.
That would hit the under. So I'm going to go.
Don't go out and gamble on my horrible predictions.
Yeah,
that's literally spitballing.
No, Chuck just gave you the exact score. All right. If you put an exacta on that, that's probably like plus, 2,500. I'm going to say, I think Washington wins. I think Michael Penix is ridiculous. I love Kalen DeBoer. I don't think Michigan wins these big games now with this team that they have and with Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh doesn't win huge games. He's proven that time and time again, even though he has started to turn that narrative around the last couple of seasons. But I'll take Washington. I'll take them on the money line. I'll take them to win the game outright. I'll take them on the spread, and I'll take the under. So give me Washington 27, Michigan 24. Game ends on a J.J. McCarthy pick or a Blake Corum fumble.
Wow. You don't think beating Ohio State year after year is winning big games?
Now that's some
I
spitballing.
think you can argue that beating Ohio State's a bigger game than beating Washington in the national championship game.
I mean,
Right?
But you know how they lost last year to TCU.
Yeah,
and
TCU.
how Jim Harbaugh lost the Super Bowl to the Ravens even though they were up.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying here. He's beginning to change the narrative, like I said, but that's just I can't wait to be wrong on Thursday. So that's all we got for you on this edition of the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. Remember to download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. We'll be back on Thursday to see how wrong we were and make predictions and be wrong again. So we'll see you then.
Yeah.